the upcoming season, the Atlas as well as several other boats will all be turbine powered. And while the turbine is the question mark for the upcoming season, at Houston, we saw everything but.
We have 3 different types of power plants in use in the hydroplanes here on Clear Lake. This is the first type, the aircraft engine, the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the Griffon, the Allison. They were developed for fighter aircraft in World War II and haven't been manufactured in nearly 40 years. They're being used in hydroplane and in tractor pull competition, and they're using them up. They're literally running out. Johnny Rutherford looks at the second type of engine.
Thank you, Paul. The engine I'm standing by is one that started life as a 454 cubic inch truck engine. As you can see, it's far from that now. It has magneto ignition, a 671 Roots supercharger, a fuel injection system, and of course all of the internal parts. The crankshaft, the rods, the pistons, the camshaft are all specially made to hop this engine up. It now is a little over 480 cubic inches and produces somewhere around 1,000 horsepower. But it takes 2 of these to do the same job as the Merlin Rolls-Royce we've just looked at.
Johnny, unlike the 2 engines we've just seen, this particular motor is the only one designed specifically for marine use. It's the outboard engine. As you can see, it's considerably smaller than the other 2. 2 teams trying to make the World Championship finals are using outboard power. This is the first time in the history of unlimited racing that an outboard engine has been used. It's considerably smaller, as we mentioned. It weighs only 525 pounds, yet this will generate 425 horsepower. One of the boats entered in this race carries 4 of these outboards. And the people are watching its development very, very closely, because the question now, as those big airplane engines become more and more scarce, is this, the outboard, the wave of the future in unlimited racing?
Well, there is no question, Gary. We are seeing a great deal of progress in hydroplane racing. In this next heat, we will see all 3 of the power plants that we've just shown you.
Setting the field, here's the Miss USA, one of the outboards that we just looked at, powered by 4 V8 outboard engines. This hull handled by Jimbo McConnell out of Illinois in the water for the first time.
Terry Turner is driving Miss Gunite, and this particular boat has 2 of the automotive Chevy V8 engines that we showed you earlier.
Miss Louise on the lake, half the weight of her competitors, driven by 2 outboard engines and handled by Renato Molinari, 16-time World Formula Champion.
Chet's Music, conventional hull, turbo Allison powered, Ron Armstrong in the cockpit, the fastest qualifier in this group at better than 123.5 miles per hour.
The Executone, powered as well by an aircraft engine, handled by George Johnson, a boat that has been very consistent all season long, looking for a victory.
And Miss Tosti, driven by Todd Yarling, a first-year driver in the Thunderboats, the oldest boat in the field.
As we come to the start of the heats, there has been some concern for Molinari's presence. The boat, you can see it there, second from right, much smaller. Many of the other pilots are afraid they will lose sight of it in the wake of the bigger boats. As they come to the start now, Armstrong jumps into the lead.
Well, Paul, with that little boat out there, all of that water in the air, when they get into this first turn, could possibly be that he'll be in trouble.
Armstrong had decidedly more horsepower and was able to pull away from most of the field, averaging well over 9 miles an hour faster than the rest of the competition. So Armstrong easily went on to victory, but the real battle developed between these 2 men. On the left, Jimbo McConnell and Renato Molinari, the 2 outboard boats battling for second place.
Paul, here you can see the smaller boat getting around the turns a little better, having an advantage as he comes around the turn, but the big boat then giving him all he needs down the straightaway.
Jimbo McConnell pulling wide on the turn and then laying the power on from those 4 outboards. Now, you get a good comparison there in the size of the 2 boats. Molinari's just barely making the minimum length. You also notice that neither one of these boats produce a high rooster tail.
Sharp contrast in the size of the rooster tail from the outboards, only about 3 to 5 feet. This is for 2 reasons. No skid fin on either one of the outboards, plus the fact that they have trim control. They control the bite that the prop gets in the water, whereas it's a fixed prop position for the conventional unlimited hydro. Consequently, significant difference in the size of the rooster tail.
Armstrong went on to an easy victory, but the battle seesawed back and forth between Molinari and McConnell, with Molinari finally finishing in second place, able to pull out a small lead. After the race, Gary Gerald talked with Jimbo McConnell and asked him about running against that tiny boat of Molinari's.
Jimbo, what was it like chasing that little boat?
Oh, it was frustrating because I had top speed, but I had to be careful through the turn. And I didn't have the acceleration, but I had tremendous top speed. But by the time I got rolling, it was almost time to start setting up for the turn again. So we're going to make a change and see if we can get a little bit more acceleration back. Top speed, I've got more than I need, really. So we're going to make some changes.
Well, what kind of changes can you make before the next heat?
Well, we see this is an outboard, so we can do almost anything we want to. We can change our gear ratios. We can change our propeller selection. We'll make a change, and hopefully it'll be in the right direction.
McConnell not the only one thinking of change. They're also making some modification on the Atlas.
Paul, it appears that they're putting longer spoilers on that leading edge to destroy the air underneath the boat to get it back down on the water.
So the crew making some changes on Chip Hanauer's boat. Here's the order of finish for the championship division, the first heat. Armstrong, an easy winner, but a surprising second place finish by the Italian Renato Molinari.
Traces its lineage to sailboating and regattas, and therefore uses the regatta start. Chip Hanauer, on the dash of his Atlas, has this countdown timer, which he starts to back time himself to the start.
The ability to time from the moment that you leave the dock until the flag flies indicating the start of the race is incredibly important and separates the champions from the also-ran in this sport of water speed. This cannon marks 5 minutes before the start. It's fired again with just 1 minute to go. The boats have practiced time and time again a careful circle, a careful approach to the line as they look to the shore and this clock, which counts the final minute. At 15 seconds, each driver has a position on the course where he wants to be.
I'll be a little bit past the exit buoy out of number 4 turn, and I'll be on it real hard.
Here on this particular course, the inside lane has got to be the answer.
I've found that in the last couple of races, by being on the outside and just making a super start, you can be at the first turn with them without the problems that you get involved with at the first turn, being caught on the inside.
I've driven all the lanes this year, and the boat seems to do the best wherever it is, so I just mainly want to have a lot of boat speed and not be late.
It's about a 12-second run from the upper corner to the start-finish line, so you're going to be somewhere in the middle of the turn to the exit of the corner, heading for the clock, full throttle.
There's a mark on the beach that I know I want to be at 15 seconds. If I hit that mark at 15 seconds, I should be all synced and lined up for that start line to hit it exactly as the clock closes. And of course, that's the object. If you can get into that first corner first, boy, that's a big advantage.
So every man knows exactly where he wants to be. We're in the final count now for the second heat of the World Division. But the Bud seems to be having a problem.
Yes, Paul, he's not up to speed and he's not in the right place. I don't know what's going on, but he's going much slower and he's signaling.
Kropfeld signals something wrong on the Bud as the rest of the boats turn toward the line. The final 15 seconds on the count. Everyone moving to the position that they want. Closing quickly on the line. Remember, they don't want to be across that line ahead of the gun. Now, as they head toward the line, Snyder down on the inside gets an excellent start and heads toward the first turn.
That was very good, and of course he said in his interview he wanted to be on the inside, headed for that first turn.
Jack Schaefer dropped into second place. Tommy Deeth and the Squire in third. As Deeth begins to pick up power now, far on the outside, closing around in third place. But the Rich plant got a tremendous start, and with that Allison turbo up front, was able to scream away on the backstretch.
Yes, Paul, of course he said on his interview that he wanted to be on the inside, and he really did pull that off nicely.
But here's the great disappointment to see Kropfeld heading toward the pits, obviously still under power, but something seriously wrong. The World Championship seems to be a nemesis for the Bud. Remember, they ran out of fuel in the championship last year. Now Chip Hanauer charging, moving up through the field, coming up behind Schaefer.
He's on the inside, and you know, it's funny that they would have the room. If I were Schaefer, I think I'd be right down against those buoys.
Well, if there was a question about the handling on the Atlas, it doesn't exist any longer because Hanauer is running on the inside in second place and challenging Snyder.
And what a job Ron Snyder is doing. In fact, tremendous credit has to go to his crew. Remember yesterday, he hooked some rough water, spun the boat out, nearly beached that craft. It was heavily damaged. There was a question if he'd be able to compete today, and right now he leads this heat.
Using the outside line, currently running in third place. Here is Jack Schaefer, Bob Taylor's boat, running in front of their hometown crowd. The Speedy currently holding down third place. But the battle at the front, very close. The Atlas completely hidden behind the rooster tail being created by the back of Schneider's boat. There is the Atlas on the charge. Hanauer pulling on the power, and you can see the boat really has settled down in the water compared to the first heat that they ran.
Yes, Paul, I think the changes we saw them making with the spoilers has done the job.
Now Atlas trying to catch Schneider. Schneider, that front engine, turbo-powered Allison, pulling power on Hanauer's boat at the moment, but here comes Hanauer closing down in the corner, the tighter section of the course. Hanauer handles are down on the inside. There gives you an idea of how much they have improved the handling on this boat.
It's incredible, Paul, to see him really pull it in tight and go around that tight turn that way and then explode down the straightaways. Atlas is really running well.
And a problem with Schneider's boat as he pulls to the side, perhaps as he came around that corner, they washed the boat down, and that would certainly cause a problem with the ignition. Now he picks up the power and underway, but several boats have gotten past the former leader. Chip Hanauer out in front, and here a most interesting boat. A year ago was only a dream for its owner, Jerry Shaineth, who talks about the Renault.
Well, for the first time, I think we can call ourselves unlimited instead of copy time. My slogan years ago, to beat the Bud, was build a Bud. Well, that was fine for a year or so, but now we have got so much different competition with different power plants and different hulls. When we gambled and built a wood boat, people didn't think that wood would be the way to go. Well, we've come out with probably the strongest boat. We have virtually not had to repair an inch of the boat itself because of its wood. We've also built a light boat, which has helped out. We've also brought the Allison engine, the aircraft engine, back into its own again.
Whatever Shaineth and his crew is doing, it certainly is making a difference, and this brand new boat is performing well here in the hands of Milner Irving. They've come across the line in second place behind Chip Hanauer in first. But the real question, what's the problem on the Bud?
What happened?
I don't know. I just can't get it going. Dave thinks there might be a bad valve every time I start to get on a little bit. I don't have any power, but when I start to get on, it'll start backfiring.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
Yeah, it happens a lot, huh?
Better luck next time.
Yeah, at least I didn't hit the wall.
There you go. One racer to another. Kropfeld has made it into the final round despite not being able to finish that heat, as has Chip Hanauer, Mil Irvin, and Tommy Dees. We'll be back.